up for Kinsman.
Once upon a time, I had the most perfect romantic meal of my life. And specifically, this once upon a time was in 2002, but it could have been any time because the restaurant was La Caravelle. And I don't know if any of you had a chance to go there before it went away, but it was this perfect time capsule of mid-century French dining. And it could have been 2002, it could have been 1972. You could feel the history when you walked in there. Kind of Breland had walked into there. Various Kennedys and their pretty cousins had strolled the whole way. Truman Capote had eaten there at some points, and it was a stunning thing. All white tablecloths and fish knives and all that sort of very fancy Frenchness, and I was going to get to eat there on Valentine's Day, and I wasn't going to eat there alone because who the hell goes to a fancy French ass restaurant by themselves on Valentine's Day? No, I was going to go with my boyfriend, who was this wonderful man who I met on the internet, and that was really some high quality fishing ground back there in 2002. So he was worldly and he was sophisticated, and I was really smitten with him. He had, he wore shoes that didn't have athletic logos on them, and he had a job where he had to be there at a certain time in the morning, I never had anybody sort of nail the whole Valentine's Day thing before, because I dated some really lovely men who didn't necessarily have this in their repertoire. For instance, I went to meet one particular gentleman at Old Town Tavern for lunch, because that's the most romantic of all Valentine's meals is lunch. And we were digging into our hamburgers, and I thought this was a great time to whip out the carefully chosen volume of poetry that I'd selected for him, and he looked at me and said, "We're doing this?" Yeah, that was not a good time. And there was the other boyfriend who I'd taken a long Peter Pan bus ride to go and see in Philadelphia. And it's cold in February, shivering and all that, and made it to his house because picking me up at the bus station was some sort of issue for him. And he said, "So, where do you want to go eat?" But as bad as he was making Valentine's Day dinner plans, he's really good at nailing down Valentine's Day presents because he gave me a drill for Valentine's Day. I presented him my dozen roses that I coated all the way on the bus from New York, and there's that. But this dude, he not only did he know to make a reservation for Valentine's Day, but he knew to go to somewhere like La Caravelle, which is it was sort of the epitome of glamour and sophistication, and I was scared out of my mind because I don't know if you can tell because I've been sweating all day, but I'm really fancy, and I can tell you this because at the beginning of 2012 I decided that my New Year's Eve resolution was to be to become really fancy. And I've been trying to keep it to this day, but at the time, I was much more sort of given to wearing a lot of thrift store dresses, and I don't think I ever wore a pair of tights out of the house that didn't have a run going up it, and a lot of combat boots and things, this situation about me feeling really comfortable going to a fancy restaurant also was not helped out by previous said boyfriend of the rejected poetry book, because we had gone one previous time to Babo, which is near here, and he for an anniversary dinner, which I paid for, and he cautioned me beforehand not to embarrass him by having a Diet Coke. So I was going into this dinner, this fantastic dinner, with the notion that I was going to stick out like a sore thumb and be, I would arrive there somehow and the maitre d' would see me and either make me go and sit in a corner in the kitchen or somehow sniff out the fact that I had grown up in Kentucky and was entirely unworthy of being there. So I had done my prep work and I learned how to pronounce quenelle because I knew they had that on the menu, and I looked up things about the implements they use there to verify things like fish knives, which I knew came with your Dover sole. And I was very excited about this opportunity and scared to I didn't want to embarrass my worldly boyfriend with the, dress shoes and all that. I was falling really hard for this guy at this point. It was fun to eat with, and I'd never been taken out and taken seriously as a grown lady before, and I thought maybe this is my time. And he, good God, we didn't even have to take the subway. He called a car. And it was a lovely thing, rode to the restaurant, and I walked in, and I was a little bit nervous until I saw some other ladies my age with their very generous uncles there who allowed me to take them out for Valentine's Day, and I noticed that everybody had smiles on their faces, and they weren't looking at me askance, and I'm sure I had some sort of terrible hole in my tights, or that they were thin enough to show off my tattoos. There were women in there who were wearing the Chanel suits that I'm sure that they had been wearing there since it opened in 1960 or so, and everybody looked beautiful. And the reason a restaurant like that stays around for such a long time is because of the hospitality. They make you feel like you belong, and I still to this day remember ordering my quenelles because I practiced saying that and getting a fish knife along with it. I still had no idea how to deploy it, but there it was on the table, and I felt really, really fancy about that. And my glass never went past half full, and I remember thinking that when the souffle, which they were famous for, finally arrived at the table, and I had ordered mine with Grand Marnier because that seems somehow more sophisticated than chocolate. And I put my spoon into there, and they'd also put some ice cream into there, and I sank back into my date's chest and thought, I belong. And I carried that memory with me for months and months, and it all would have been so great had I not found out several months later that the person who really should have been sitting with him there was his wife, who he had not bothered to mention to me. When I found that out, food started to lose some of its charm for me, especially, fancy French ass restaurants. Because I sort of thought, okay, this is a thing I feel that I am worthy of somehow, but clearly it is all a lie. And I got really, really skinny, and I was just unable to find any sort of joy in food or life or anything like that. It hit me really hard to find that this thing that I'd taken such tremendous joy in was in fact all this terrible, terrible lie. So I did the only sensible thing the next Valentine's Day, which is I went to Reno by myself and went out to dinner at a fancy French-ass restaurant because that really seemed like a great thing to do. And I sort of went up to the maitre d' apologetically. I was staying in the hotel, the Peppermill Casino and Hotel in Reno, if you've ever been there. These great animatronic bears and this fire pit, this bubbling pool of water that has fire shooting up out of it and stuff, because that's a really great listed polar heartbreak. So I decided to go to the fanciest joint in the whole place, and I sort of skulked up to the maitre d' and said, well, you know what, I know it's Valentine's Day, and I know everything's for two. Is there any way you could cut that in half for me, or sit me around the edge here, or something like that? He was like, no, Miss, Madame, we have a table just for you. And it was dead in the center of the room. With the spotlight shining right on top of me. I'm sitting there by myself eating. I had elk medallions, which were really good, so if you ever go to the Peppermill Hotel, you might get the elk medallions. And, but that was a great girl power moment for the first time in months. We were sitting there thinking, Some people with their fancy leather shoes might lie to you and all this stuff, but you can take yourself out to dinner. And I was really better about things. I was able to choke down some food. And then the waiter came over and said to me, "You are the most beautiful woman in this restaurant, yet you are the only one dining alone." And I, finished my portion of souffle and got it back. And you know what? It got better. Time heals a lot of things, and there are a lot of really great restaurants, and luckily there are a lot of really, really great guys out there too. And I met one, and we got married, and there are no extra wives or anything like that. And a few years ago, I had the most perfect romantic meal of my whole life. It was 2009, 2010, it was Christmas time, and it had been a difficult financial year for both of us. And we had spent, whatever capital we had buying, presents for Christmas for the extended family, and we were just trying to get through the end of the year. And we were down visiting his family in North Carolina, and we'd driven to save money. And I was not in a great mood. I'm not so much on Christmas, and he looked at me and he just knew I needed some kind of comforting something or whatever. So we pulled into a Harris Teeter, which if you have any luck, it just got bought by Kroger, which is a tragedy for Southerners. But we went in and we weren't really talking or anything. We were both tired, a lot of family stuff, and it was great, but we were both kind of worn out and hungry, and we sort of just looked at each other and picked up some items, and there was no place to sit in there. So we went out into the parking lot, sat there in the front seat of the Jeep, opened up a couple of containers, and we dragged some Captain's wafers through some Harris Teeter brand pimento cheese. And there were no fish knives involved. They were